All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to look at a region that's quietly becoming a global leader in digital government.
Quietly.
Yeah, it's the Gulf Cooperation Council,
Uh,
the GCC.
the GCC, exactly.
Yeah.
You might be surprised to hear this, but they're setting a standard most countries can only dream of when it comes to digital government.
Yeah, and it's true. They've really achieved a level of citizen satisfaction with digital services that's honestly astonishing.
Right.
And it's not about, having these flashy apps or anything like that.
Yeah.
This is about core government functions,
Yeah.
the stuff that impacts daily life for everybody.
Exactly. Stuff that can be a real pain sometimes.
Yeah.
We're talking about a report from the Boston Consulting Group. Have you seen this?
Oh, yeah. They've done some serious number crunching on this.
They have. They've surveyed people all over the world about their experiences with digital government services.
Right.
And the GCC comes out on top, both in terms of how much people use those services and how happy they are with them. Yeah, it's really impressive. In fact, the GCC boasts an 81% net approval rating from citizens for their digital services,
Wow.
which just dwarfs the global average of 65%.
That's a massive difference. There's got to be something going on there.
There is, yeah. I mean, they're definitely doing something right.
So let's unpack this a bit. What are some examples of services where the GCC is really excelling?
Well, you can think about the things that you interact with most frequently as a citizen, like renewing your driver's license,
Right.
or paying utility bills, accessing healthcare records.
Yeah.
Those are the types of services where the GCC is really getting top marks. What's really interesting, though, is that this satisfaction actually translates to a broader sense of trust in government overall.
Yeah. So it's not just about convenience, it's about building a positive relationship between citizens and their government. But here's where things get really interesting. The report digs into how AI, especially this new wave of generative AI like ChatGPT, is about to completely change the game.
Oh, yeah.
This is especially relevant for the GCC because their citizens are already using Gen AI more than most of the rest of the world.
Right, exactly. And the GCC is already incorporating AI, of course.
Yeah.
But the potential goes way beyond what we're seeing today. I mean, think about hyper-personalized recommendations
Yeah.
on government websites. Imagine if you logged on and the site instantly knows which services you might need before you even search for them.
That's crazy.
Right.
It's like having a personal assistant for navigating bureaucracy. I like that. A personal assistant for bureaucracy.
Exactly. And then there's the potential for what they call AI-powered nudges. These are sort of like gentle reminders to help you stay on track with deadlines and avoid late fees.
Yeah, I can see that being really helpful.
No more frantic scrambling to meet a deadline that you totally forgot about.
Oh, yeah, that's happened to me more than once.
And then, of course, imagine 24/7 access to incredibly intelligent chatbots that can actually answer your questions accurately and in real time.
I mean, it all sounds pretty amazing. But, there are always two sides to every coin. What are some of the potential pitfalls we need to be aware of when it comes to using AI in government?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think one of the biggest concerns is the potential for algorithmic bias. These AI systems are trained on data, and if that data reflects existing societal biases, those biases can then be amplified by the algorithms,
Right.
which can be really dangerous. And this is especially relevant in the GCC because they have such a diverse population. It's something to really think about.
Yeah, AI could inadvertently create or worsen existing inequalities if we're not careful. That's a big concern. It really underscores the importance of making sure the data used to train these systems is fair and representative of the entire population.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you also have the issue of what they call AI hallucinations, where the system spits out totally incorrect information, but it does it very confidently.
Oh, yeah.
Now, imagine if that happens on an important government document, like a birth certificate or a visa application.
Oh,
You can imagine what kind of a nightmare that would create.
yeah. Talk about a bureaucratic nightmare. And what about transparency? If these AI systems are making decisions that impact people's lives, how can we make sure that those decisions are understandable and accountable?
That's a crucial question, because even if the AI is totally accurate and efficient, if citizens don't understand how it works or why it's making certain decisions, it can lead to mistrust and suspicion,
Right.
which can ultimately erode the very foundation of a successful digital government system.
But here's what I find really fascinating.
Yeah.
According to the report, GCC citizens are remarkably trusting of their governments to use AI responsibly.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting.
They actually trust their governments way more than they trust private companies with their data when it comes to AI?
Yeah, it's crazy. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, they have a 71% net trust in government AI use compared to just 49% globally.
Wow.
It's a massive difference. One possible explanation is that GCC governments have been very proactive in communicating about their AI plans. They've really emphasized their commitment to using AI ethically and responsibly from the get-go.
So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the context in which it's introduced and how it's communicated to the public.
Exactly. And I think the existing high satisfaction with digital services also plays a role. It's like a positive feedback loop. When people have good experiences with digital government, they're more likely to trust the government to implement new technologies like AI in a way that actually benefits them.
Right. So this high level of trust actually gives the GCC a real advantage in becoming a global leader in ethical AI implementation. They've already got the infrastructure, a tech-savvy population, and now they've got this crucial element of public buy-in. That's a powerful combination.
It really is. But even with this high trust, I think it would be irresponsible to ignore the potential pitfalls. The report actually highlights that 72% of GCC respondents in the survey still encountered some kind of problem when they were using digital services.
Hmm. So even in a region where digital government is considered world-class, there's still room for improvement.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
There always is.
I guess it shows that the work is never truly done. What were some of the specific issues that people raised in that report?
Well, the most common problems reported were things like technical difficulties with websites or apps,
Right.
processes that felt too long or complicated,
Oh, yeah.
or, just having difficulty finding the information they needed.
Okay, so things we've probably all experienced at some point when dealing with government websites. It makes you realize that even with great digital services, user experience is absolutely paramount. People need to feel like these systems are working for them, not against them.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to the details, even when the overall satisfaction is high. Those little frustrations, they can really add up and ultimately undermine trust.
So what are some of the solutions being considered to address these pain points?
One of the most promising solutions that the report points to is the implementation of a unified digital ID.
Okay.
So imagine having this one secure login that gives you access to every single government service.
Okay.
No more juggling multiple usernames and passwords for all these different websites.
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
Right. It would simplify things immensely. And I bet it would improve security, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
The report also highlights the potential for even more advanced Gen AI to streamline and personalize the user experience. We're talking about AI that can anticipate your needs, guide you through really complex processes, and even proactively offer solutions to problems before you even realize you have them.
That's pretty amazing.
Right.
I mean, it makes you think about all the different ways things could go wrong. Handing over so much control to an AI.
That's a valid concern. It underscores the need for ongoing scrutiny and citizen feedback. The report really emphasizes the importance of continuous innovation based on what users actually need and experience.
So it's not just about building the system and then leaving it to run on autopilot. It's about constantly listening to users, gathering feedback, and making adjustments to ensure the system remains user-friendly and responsive to people's evolving needs.
Exactly. And that's where the GCC's unique position of high trust and advanced digital infrastructure could really make a difference. They have the potential to not only implement these really advanced AI solutions, but to do so in a way that actually prioritizes citizen well-being and builds on that trust they already have.
It's a fascinating opportunity, and it'll be interesting to see how they navigate these uncharted waters.
Mm.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's dive a little deeper into some of the specific concerns GCC citizens raised about the use of AI in government, even with this high level of trust. So we were just talking about AI and how even with that really high level of trust, GCC citizens still have some concerns. What were some of the top worries that came out in the BCG report?
The report highlighted three major concerns. First, there's the fear of economic harm,
Okay.
specifically job displacement,
Right.
due to AI taking over tasks that humans currently do. And this is particularly relevant, of course, in the GCC, where governments are often large employers.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a valid concern. It raises questions about how governments can prepare their workforces for the changes that AI is going to bring, inevitably. What were the other concerns?
The second concern focused on the potential for legal issues if AI systems make mistakes.
Right.
Think about a situation where an AI incorrectly denies someone a benefit they're entitled to,
Oh, wow.
or makes a wrong decision that has really serious consequences for an individual.
It makes you think about how these systems can't just be operating in a black box.
Right.
There needs to be some kind of accountability and oversight. There needs to be mechanisms for appeal and redress if things go wrong.
Exactly. And then that third concern is the lack of transparency and control over how AI is being used.
Hmm.
Even if people trust that the intentions are good, not understanding how the technology actually works or how decisions are being made can be really unsettling.
Right. It's that feeling of being at the mercy of an algorithm that you can't argue with.
So even with this really high level of trust, the GCC is facing some tough questions about how to implement AI in a way that's both innovative and responsible.
Absolutely. And the report doesn't just present these concerns.
Right.
It actually offers some really concrete solutions as well.
Okay, let's dig into that. What are some of the steps GCC governments can take to address these very real anxieties about AI? Well, one of the key recommendations is establishing clear laws and regulations to set boundaries for AI development and use.
Right.
And this would provide a framework for ensuring that AI is developed and deployed ethically in a way that protects citizen rights.
So not just relying on good intentions, but actually putting legal safeguards in place.
Right, exactly.
What kind of specific regulations are we talking about?
Well, the report talks about things like data privacy regulations, to protect sensitive personal information,
Yeah.
rules around algorithmic transparency,
Okay.
to ensure that people can understand how decisions are being made, and mechanisms for auditing AI systems, just to check for bias and accuracy.
So it's a multi-layered approach that combines legal frameworks with technical oversight. What else does the report recommend?
Another crucial aspect is rigorous testing and auditing of AI systems before they're actually deployed.
Yeah. Okay.
And this would help identify and mitigate potential problems early on before they have a chance to actually cause harm.
It makes you think about how we test new drugs or airplanes before they're released to the public.
Right, exactly.
AI systems that are making important decisions should probably be held to similar high standards.
Exactly. The report also emphasizes the need for open and honest communication about AI. Yeah, both its benefits and its risks. It's about acknowledging that this is powerful technology that has the potential for both good and bad, and engaging citizens in a dialogue, an ongoing dialogue, about how to harness that potential while mitigating the risks.
So not just touting the amazing things AI can do,
Yeah.
but also being upfront about the potential downsides and really involving citizens in that conversation about how to get it right.
Right. And finally, the report recommends mandatory reporting mechanisms for AI failures,
Okay.
for incidents where AI systems actually cause harm.
Got it.
This would create a system of accountability and help ensure that those problems are addressed quickly and transparently.
So it's about having a system in place to learn from mistakes.
Right.
Because let's be honest, no system is perfect, especially with something as complex as AI. There are bound to be, hiccups along the way.
Absolutely. And by being transparent about those hiccups and having those systems in place to learn from them, governments can actually build trust and show that they're taking the responsible use of AI very seriously.
It seems like they're really trying to find that sweet spot between harnessing this incredible power of AI while also putting safeguards in place to protect people from potential harms.
Right. And it's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
And it's one that the GCC is, I think, really uniquely positioned to tackle because they're starting from a place of strength. They have the resources, they have the infrastructure, and perhaps most importantly, they already have that trust of their citizens.
It makes you wonder if that high level of trust might actually make it easier to have those difficult conversations about AI and its potential downsides.
That's a really interesting point. It could be that in a context of high trust, people are more willing to entertain the idea that the government is genuinely trying to do what's best for them, even when they're dealing with a technology like AI that can be complex and controversial.
So the GCC has this opportunity then to not only become a leader in AI implementation, but also to show the world how to do it responsibly and ethically.
It's a high bar to set for sure, but if anyone can pull it off, maybe it's a region that's already exceeding expectations when it comes to digital government.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, and it's definitely a story worth watching.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've explored the potential pitfalls and some of the solutions being proposed. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about how AI could actually change the citizen experience in the GCC. How might AI transform the way people interact with their governments?
Well, one of the most significant changes could be a shift towards a more personalized and proactive government. So imagine a system where instead of having to navigate all these complex websites or wait on hold for hours, you have an AI assistant that basically anticipates your needs
Yeah.
and then provides you with that personalized guidance and support.
So it's about moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach to government services and toward a system that's tailored to the individual needs of each citizen.
Exactly. And AI can really help to make that a reality. We're talking about AI that can analyze your data, understand your specific circumstances, and then proactively suggest services or benefits that you might be eligible for, maybe even ones you don't know about. Related.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah,
But it also raises some questions like about privacy.
of course.
If the government is collecting all this data about us to do this, how can we be sure that it's being used responsibly and that our privacy is actually protected?
That's a crucial point, and it's one that the GCC is very aware of. They're taking steps to strengthen data protection laws, implement very robust cybersecurity measures, and create independent oversight mechanisms to ensure that personal data is used ethically and securely.
So it's about striking that balance between leveraging the power of AI to improve services while also making sure that citizen privacy is protected.
Right. And the GCC's high level of trust in government could actually be an advantage here.
How so?
Well, if citizens already trust that their data is being used responsibly, they might be more willing to share it,
Right.
which in turn could lead to even more personalized and effective services.
It's an interesting paradox. Sometimes that trust can actually enable greater innovation.
It can.
But let's not just focus on individual citizens here.
Mm.
How might AI be used to improve the overall functioning of government itself?
Well, one area where AI could have a significant impact is in improving communication and collaboration between all the different government agencies. Right now, government can feel very siloed,
Yeah.
with different departments often operating in isolation.
It's like that old saying, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
It's exact.
And that can lead to inefficiencies, duplication of effort, and ultimately, a frustrating experience for citizens who are just trying to get things done.
Exactly. But AI could actually help to break down those silos by creating a more integrated and seamless flow of information between agencies.
So instead of having to submit the same information multiple times to different departments,
Right.
you could have a system where data is shared securely and efficiently between those different agencies.
Right. And AI could also help to identify patterns and insights that might not be obvious to humans,
Okay.
leading to better decision making and more effective policies.
So it's about using AI not just to automate tasks, but to actually improve the way government functions as a whole,
Exactly.
making government smarter, more efficient, more responsive to the needs of its citizens.
Exactly. And that's a vision that has the potential to really transform the relationship between citizens and their governments in a very positive way.
Okay, so we've talked about personalization, we've talked about interagency collaboration. What other areas are they focusing on?
Another area where AI could have a huge impact is in data analysis and decision making.
Yeah.
So by harnessing the power of AI and big data, GCC governments can gain a much deeper understanding of citizen needs and preferences.
So instead of relying on gut feelings or anecdotal evidence, they can make decisions based on hard data and real-time insights.
Exactly, yeah. AI can help analyze these vast amounts of data from sources like surveys, social media, and government records, to identify trends and patterns and even areas where services could be improved.
That's incredibly powerful.
Hmm.
It could really help governments design better policies, allocate resources more effectively, and ultimately create a more responsive and citizen-centric government.
And it's not just about efficiency, though. AI can also play a key role in making government more transparent and accountable.
How so?
Well, imagine a system where AI is used to analyze government data and then present it in a clear and understandable way for citizens.
Okay, yeah.
It could create interactive dashboards and visualizations and reports that allow people to actually see exactly how their government is performing, where their tax dollars are going, and how decisions are being made.
Wow, that level of transparency could be really transformative. It could help build trust,
It could.
reduce corruption, and empower citizens to hold their governments accountable.
Exactly. And it also opens up opportunities for greater citizen participation.
Okay.
With better data and analysis, governments can create more effective channels for feedback and input.
So instead of just being passive recipients of government services. Citizens can become active participants in shaping those services and making their voices heard.
Exactly, yeah. The GCC is already experimenting with AI-powered platforms to facilitate citizen feedback and engagement. Imagine being able to use a chatbot to report a problem,
Right.
or, provide feedback on a proposed policy, or even participate in a virtual town hall meeting.
That's a far cry from the traditional model of government,
Huh.
where, citizens only interact with their government during elections or when they need to file paperwork.
It is, and it's a shift that could have some really profound implications for democracy and citizen empowerment. It's about recognizing that citizens have really valuable insights and expertise to offer,
Yeah.
and then actually creating mechanisms for them to share those insights and help shape the future of their communities.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but, you know, I can't help but think back to those potential downsides we discussed earlier.
Sure.
How can we be sure that this increased use of AI doesn't exacerbate existing inequalities or create new ones?
That's a critical question, and it really highlights the need for careful planning and a commitment to equity and inclusion from the very beginning.
So it's not just about building cool technology, it's about making sure that technology actually benefits everyone, not just a select few. What are some concrete steps government can take to ensure that AI is used in a way that's fair and equitable?
Well, one really crucial area is education and training.
Okay.
Governments need to invest in programs that equip all citizens with the skills they need to thrive in an AI-powered economy, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status.
So it's not just about teaching people how to code.
Right.
It's about developing those critical thinking skills, problem-solving abilities,
Mhm.
and the adaptability to navigate a world where work is constantly changing.
Exactly. And it's also about providing opportunities for reskilling and upskilling for those whose jobs might be displaced by AI.
So it's about supporting people through this transition and ensuring that everyone has the chance to actually benefit from the opportunities that AI is creating.
Right. And it's not just about individual skills, though. Governments also need to create a supportive ecosystem for AI innovation and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
This means fostering a culture that really embraces risk-taking and experimentation, providing access to funding and resources, and creating a regulatory environment that encourages responsible AI development.
So it's about creating an environment where anyone with a good idea can potentially turn it into a successful AI business.
Exactly. And that's something the GCC is already doing quite well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're investing in incubators, accelerators, and funding programs to support AI startups.
Oh, wow.
And they're attracting a lot of global AI talent and investment by creating world-class research centers and offering really attractive incentives.
It sounds like they're really trying to position themselves as a global leader in AI,
They are.
not just in terms of technological development, but also in terms of creating a thriving and inclusive AI ecosystem.
And that's what makes this so interesting, because it's not just about the technology itself, right?
Right.
It's about the values and the principles that guide its development and deployment. It's about recognizing that AI has the potential to be a really powerful force for good, but only if we use it wisely and responsibly.
Okay, so we've explored the potential pitfalls. We've talked about some of the solutions being proposed. We've looked at those exciting possibilities of AI-powered government in the GCC. But let's zoom out a bit. What can other countries learn from the GCC's experience? What are the key takeaways here that are relevant no matter where you live? So we've been talking all about this report on how the GCC is using AI in their digital government services. But I'm curious, what can the rest of the world learn from what they're doing? What are the big takeaways?
One of the biggest things that jumps out at me is how important that proactive communication is.
Oh, interesting.
The GCC hasn't just built really great systems, but they've also gone the extra mile to actually explain those systems to citizens.
Yeah.
They're highlighting the benefits, they're addressing those concerns head on.
Right. It makes you realize that the technology itself isn't really enough, is it?
No.
You need that human element. You need that clear communication to build trust and get people on board with big changes.
Absolutely. And it seems like this transparent approach has really played a key role in building that uniquely high level of trust that we see in the GCC when it comes to the government's use of AI.
Right.
It's not something that happens by accident.
Oh.
It's really cultivated through this consistent, open dialogue.
So communication is key. What about the rules? Like, what about regulations? The GCC has been pretty proactive in developing AI regulations. Is that something that other countries should be thinking about more?
I think it's definitely worth studying what they're doing.
Yeah.
The GCC's approach seems to strike a really good balance between fostering innovation while still protecting citizen rights. They're not trying to completely shut down or stifle AI development,
Right.
but they are trying to create those guardrails to make sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
Right. So it's about finding that sweet spot, encouraging the development of these beneficial AI applications without just letting things run wild and potentially harming people in the process.
Yeah.
What are some examples of these guardrails that are actually being used?
Well, the report mentions data privacy regulations, of course,
Yeah.
to protect all that sensitive information. There are also rules around algorithmic transparency,
Right.
just to ensure that people can understand how AI is making decisions. And then there are mechanisms for auditing AI systems just to check for bias and accuracy.
So it's kind of a multi-pronged approach,
It is.
combining the legal frameworks with that technical oversight to mitigate the risks.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that, a lot of people think that focusing on regulations is going to stifle innovation,
Right.
but it hasn't in the GCC.
Yeah.
Some people would actually argue that having really clear rules in place makes it easier for companies to actually develop and use AI solutions.
Oh, how so?
Well, because they know what's expected of them.
That's interesting. So regulation done right can actually encourage innovation instead of holding it back.
I think so. It provides that clarity. It provides that predictability, which can be really helpful in a field that's moving as fast as AI.
I see, yeah. So we've talked about communication, we've talked about regulations. Another takeaway from what the GCC is doing is the importance of really getting the citizens involved.
Oh, absolutely.
They haven't just been telling people about AI. They're actually trying to get input and feedback on how these technologies should be developed and used.
Right. They're moving beyond that top-down approach. They're recognizing that citizens have valuable insights and perspectives to offer when it comes to the future of AI, especially in their own communities.
Yeah. How are they actually doing that?
Well, they've been using all kinds of different things, like public forums, online consultations, and even citizen advisory boards that are dedicated to AI issues.
So they're creating a genuine two-way dialogue here. They're fostering a sense of shared ownership over these really powerful technologies.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
AI isn't just this abstract concept that people read about in the news.
Right.
It's going to affect their lives in real ways.
Oh,
So it makes sense that people should be able to actually give their input and have a say in how it's developed and used. But realistically, not everyone's going to have the same level of engagement or be equally informed about AI. How do you make sure that the government is reaching everyone, especially those who might be most vulnerable to the negative impacts of these technologies?
that's where targeted outreach and education comes in. The report talks about how important it is to make sure that everyone has access to information about AI, both the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And they need to know how to participate and give their feedback.
So it's about meeting people where they are,
Right.
providing information that's easy to understand,
Yeah.
and making sure that the people who might not traditionally be a part of these conversations, they're included too.
Exactly. And it also means providing resources and support to help people develop the skills they need to be successful in a future that's powered by AI. This could be incorporating AI education into schools, offering training programs for adults, and creating opportunities for people to learn new skills, especially for people whose jobs are going to be affected by AI.
Right. It's about supporting people and making sure that everybody benefits. It's a huge undertaking, but it also seems really important if we want to make sure that everybody benefits from AI and that nobody gets left behind.
Exactly. And it's not just something for the GCC to think about.
Right.
It's something that all countries need to be thinking about really seriously.
Yeah, because AI is already here.
It is.
It's going to affect everyone.
So the GCC is setting a really interesting example here.
It is.
But is it realistic for other countries to think they can do the same thing?
That's a good question.
Especially given their unique context.
Yeah.
They have a lot of resources. They've got a population that's really comfortable with technology.
Right.
And they've got that high level of trust in their government, too.
I think those are all really good points. Do you think the key takeaways here can be applied in different places, even without those advantages?
I do. I think the GCC has some advantages, but I think those core pieces, the things that they're doing, can apply anywhere. It's not about copying everything they're doing. It's about taking those core principles and adapting them to different situations.
So taking those ideas about communication, regulation, citizen engagement,
Yeah.
and making sure that everybody has equal access to opportunities,
Right.
and then figuring out how to actually make them work in different countries and different situations.
Exactly. And the report is really helpful in that regard.
How so?
It gives a framework for thinking about these issues.
Yeah.
It outlines the key questions that policymakers and even just everyday citizens should be asking as they work through the challenges and opportunities of AI.
So it's not really like a finish line.
No,
It's more like a roadmap.
exactly. Every country is going to have its own unique path to navigate. But I think the GCC's experience can provide some really valuable signposts along the way.
Well, this has been a really interesting deep dive. I think the GCC is doing some really innovative stuff with AI and government,
Yeah.
and they're setting a good example for the rest of the world.
I agree. And I think it's really inspiring to see a region that, people often associate with oil and finance taking such a forward-thinking approach to AI. It shows you don't have to fit a certain mold to be a leader in this space.
Right. It's a reminder that the future of AI isn't set in stone. We're all shaping it, little by little, through the choices we make and the actions we take.
The GCC is showing us that we can create a future where AI isn't just about efficiency or making money, but where it's used to make things better for everyone.
It's a vision worth working towards, and we're going to keep following their progress. If you're interested in learning more about what they're doing, we've got a link to that full report on our website. You should check it out if you want to get into the details. That's it for today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.